Welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I want to remind everybody, the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by Ireland Contracting, Pittsburgh's #1 exterior expert in roofing, siding, windows, and gutters. Taking your calls 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Also taking your tweets at Josh Taylor HD. We have Deathwish who sent the first tweet of the night. Pirates looking pretty good so far tonight. One run in the first inning, I guess, will qualify as pretty good. I will say this much, like we mentioned at the top of the show, it's the same team they lost 3 out of 4 against at home. So,
one thing I would say about the Padres is they're really playing really bad right now.
Yeah. So are the Mets.
They are playing 10 out of 13 is what they've lost. So Pirates have a chance here.
And when the Pirates went to New York, the Mets are in the middle of a terrible skid too, and they found a way to the bad baseball themselves in the 2000s.
Frankly, the Mets. You know, the manager overplayed Familia.
Yes.
It was clear the second night he came back. You know, these managers, sometimes I don't understand I'm not even an expert, and I'm watching the guy saying he doesn't have his stuff tonight. You better get him out or you're going to lose the game.
And he wasn't as sharp the first night. He threw 40 pitches.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And they almost got him for a run there. So it's worth noting that, I mean, that first night didn't look great. Second night they brought him back after they overworked him.
They use any other reliever, they probably win the game.
More than likely.
You know what I mean? Totally, it was pretty clear that he was all running on fumes the night before. But and if that's the case, then the Mets would have won 2 out of 3. Which, again, as Pat White, remember the former quarterback from West Virginia?
Yes, I do.
His favorite saying was, if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk. So, you know what I mean? The bottom line is, you know, the Pirates won, but you look at that game and it doesn't exactly inspire confidence.
We're going to the phone lines on that one. I can't even answer that one. We'll go to Tony in the Hill District. Shout out to the Hill. Tony, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hello, Josh. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm fine. I just want to say this. If the Pirates owner, I think in my own opinion, if the Pirates owner don't put no money into this team, I just honestly think that he should sell the team because them losing is just, to me, is ridiculous.
Is that it? Because that's been the sentiment for about 11 years now, Paul?
Yeah.
Really
well, again, when they were winning, when they won 3 years in a row, it sort of changed a little bit, didn't it?
Slightly.
Yeah. So,
only slightly.
Look, he is what he is. He is what he is, and frankly, the way baseball's set up, he doesn't have to spend money.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I got questions about this is terrible. Major League Baseball should be upset. No. That's where the problem lies because Major League Baseball is not upset at what he's doing. The Players Association was. Major League Baseball's not.
They don't have to be.
They don't have to be upset at what
they're making oodles of money.
The entire
everybody league. In the league is making money.
I'm trying to remember who said this before the season started. Pretty much every owner broke even before a pitch was thrown before the season started.
More than that, more than broke even.
Think about that. I mean, of course, some more than broke even, but if you want to look at it from the full 30, just about every owner in baseball broke even before the season started. Wrap that around your mind and see how the math adds up for that one. Let's go to Mark in South Park. Mark, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi. I was just wondering if you guys think that the reason the Pirates do good in the beginning of the season is because nobody really has their timing down and it's just the beginning, and then as the season goes on, the other teams have the talent to go forward where the Pirates, that's the end of their run, you know. I just think that it's the beginning of the season and nobody, you know, they're just starting out. They don't have their timing down and they just don't have the talent to go forward like the other teams. What do you guys think?
I think the exact opposite of that. I think every season leading up to this one, this team started out horribly. That was the knock against this team. They were awful in April and May because they usually had bad pitching in April and May. And usually you didn't hear from Andrew McCutchen and at the time, Neil Walker till mid-May to late in May. This team started out so slow in years past. That's what surprised everybody because they started out so well. And the one theory I'm sticking by, the cold weather is the thing I'm going to go with. It took every market that's pretty much north of Florida pretty much and east of St. Louis to finally get warmed up come May. And I thought that's what made the difference. I thought the cold weather in 2/3 of the league really made the difference. Paul, I don't know about you, but that's where I stand on that.
I think the one thing that he said, which is absolutely true, other teams have more talent.
That's true.
And here's the thing. The beauty of baseball, although everybody wants to try and go with small samples, you know, they're 25-10 over their last 35, this and that. over the course of 162 games.
Water rises to its own level.
It doesn't lie. There's no running and there's no hiding. All of your flaws and weaknesses will be exposed over 162 games. And look, they were what were they, 26 and 17? I was pointing this out to somebody.
May 17th.
Yeah, I was pointing this to somebody when we got into an argument about this, and I pointed out that last year there was a stretch right before the All-Star break where they were like 25 and 16 or something.
Pretty good.
The bottom line is, it just didn't happen at the beginning of the season. There's going to be stretches where you play well and other stretches where you don't. And there's also times when you play against, a bunch of bad teams in a row or a bunch of good teams in a row, and that will affect your record as well. At the end of the day, 162 games, that's what I'm interested in.
During that stretch you're talking about, that first quarter of the season, they were beating some bad teams. They were beating teams that were in the middle. They took 2 out of 3 against Chicago, took 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee. Some pretty impressive things that they did. So they were beating bad teams and they were beating good teams. And what happened after that? They started losing to good teams and they started losing to bad teams. They lose 3 out of 4 to San Diego. You lose 2 out of 3 to Cincinnati. You start losing to the good teams and bad teams, which speaks to your point. Sometimes it's just about how good or bad you play, and they played pretty well those first 40-some-odd games, and then they played terribly the next 40-some.
But if you look at their record, they're far better against bad teams than they are against good teams, which means, again.
Which is another oddity because, once again, counter to that point, or should not counter to your point, but
the last
they were
years,
they were a terrible starting team in the past,
right.
And they were bad against bad teams. This year they started out well, and they're good against bad teams.
Hold up, they were bad against 2 bad teams. The Reds and the Brewers. And now the Brewers are pretty good, but I mean, like, the bottom of those teams, whoever it was that was at the bottom of the NL Central, they always lost to those teams. But they were pretty good. I mean, last year, even the last few years, they've been pretty good against the bad teams in the NL East, in the NL, and especially the bad teams in the AL.
Yes.
So, the point is, over 162 games, you figure out who you are, and that's what the beauty of it is.
Another thing you point out, they've actually played somewhat well against the division this season, which never happened. That 98-win season, they were awful against the division.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that kind of sticks out of things that don't make sense with this team. There's a bunch of those things that kind of add up. You can say they're unpirate-like, if you will, as far as what we've seen in the previous years.
Unpirate-like for this group.
Unpirate-like for this group.
Yeah.
Got to qualify that.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
We will take another break. We come back, we'll answer more phone calls and maybe some tweets, too. Stick around.